when we think about race in this country, we're primarily inclined to think about black people. Maybe blacks and Latinos, even though Latinos is not specifically a race. Maybe blacks, Latinos, and even Native Americans or Asians. We generally don't think of whites. Whites see themselves at a conscious level largely as not being concerned about race. They see themselves being concerned about individuality, about personal responsibility, maybe about religion, not about race.
I think race relations are in quite bad trouble in the United States. And part of the problem is that people who were born white, as I was, are likely to talk about race without putting ourselves and our own racial experience as whites into the picture. And I was born into a system that gave me a lot of advantages that I didn't ask for and I can't be blamed for, but they helped me to survive well in our culture. And I can't work on race until I acknowledge I have racialized experience and have been given the benefit of the doubt by many of the authorities, including those in the law and those in educational institutions.
When we were making Mobile in black and white, people would often ask, why are you making a movie about race? It was as if they were saying, you're a white guy, that's not your problem. And it made me think about what a wonderful privilege that is, to not have to think about race. If I chose, I could live pretty much my entire life without having to think about race. Yet my friends and colleagues of color do not have that privilege. For them, every day is a confrontation of the realities of race. Every day they are confronted with the notion that race matters.
That's if you believe that race matters, okay? I don't see race, all right? I'm not a racist. I've moved beyond it.
Stephen Colbert was interviewing Brian Stevenson, and he said, in his sarcastic way, he said, "I'm colorblind. People tell me you're black." And he said, "And people tell me I'm white. I'm colorblind." It was so clever.
People tell me you're black, okay? Are you a black man?
I am a black man.
Have you been to prison?
I have been in a prison. I haven't actually been sentenced to prison.
So how do I know if you're actually black or not?
There's no question that race relations in states like Alabama and communities like Mobile today are radically improved over where they were 100 years ago or 50 years ago. But I also think that in the last 20 years, the effort, the interest, the commitment to continue improving race relations has really leveled. And there is a growing indifference to talking about race, thinking about race in critical contexts, and appreciating the need for continuing reform on race. And I think that means we're moving backward in some areas and in some contexts.
We are all actually responsible for our failure to tell the truth about our racial history.
Oh, so you too, you're a black guy, right?
Everybody.
So, because people tell me I'm white, and I believe them because I feel terribly guilty about this conversation.
I've had so many people tell me that they don't see color, that they are colorblind, that they choose not to see color. I don't understand that. How do you not see somebody's color? And why would you not want to see it? What is wrong with color? When I see a person of color and pretend they don't have color, what does that do to them? That erases their identity. It denies who they are. They should be proud of who they are. It also implies that whiteness is not a color. So that when you see a white person and you choose not to see their color, so what? They are the default. They are the norm. It sets people of color as the other artificially and denies who they are. And there is inherent violence in that. So when we say we're colorblind, It's as if we were trying to erase our guilt. It's also as if we were trying to erase our privilege.
Should we all be colorblind and choose not to see color? I say no, because of the fact that if everybody saw things the same way, all colors the same, we all think alike, what kind of world would this be? We don't have that world. So since we don't have that world, then we're going to have to learn how to get along with one another through the eyes of color, ethnic backgrounds, and things of that nature. So no, I don't think that we should be able to have a closed eye to color and then let it go.
Would it be best that if everyone was colorblind? I don't agree with that, because I think you ought to celebrate your color. You should celebrate your ethnicity, and I believe I ought to be allowed to celebrate my ethnicity or my color. I want you to see my color, but I don't want to be discriminated against because of my color.
The most important racial issue facing us today is that whites do not talk about whiteness and white experience as part of the racial picture. Now I understand why we were taught not to go there, how to stay out of that picture. We can try to help things for other people, but we are neutral and normal. That's incorrect.
One of the most exciting aspects of working in Mobile in black and white, for me, has been the opportunity to meet, interview, and get to know Peggy McIntosh. When I first read her work on white privilege almost 25 years ago, it changed the way I look at the world and the way that I understand race relations. You know, the racism of the 50s and 60s that we so think of as what racist means is in many ways gone by the wayside. However, race and racialization still function profoundly in our society. And one of the ways that that functions is not so much where white people are actively oppressing people of color, but rather where white people enjoy privileges and opportunities and the absence of barriers that the vast majority of people of color don't have access to.
Well, one black woman said to me, "Peggy, whites feel too much about race. And your gift is that you think about race. And can't you get more whites to think about race?" And she was talking about the way I had, in a very kind of flat-footed way, listed 46 ways in which I have unearned advantage. By contrast with my African American friends, I was hearing their stories with this empathetic feeling. How terrible for them. I was never feeling how exempt for me. How exempt for me to be able to assume the police are my friends. Once I saw that above this hypothetical line of justice, they're pushed down by not being able to depend on the police, but I am pushed up by having their exclusive attention to my needs and my well-being as they see it. And that changed everything. If my day or week or year is going badly, I don't have to ask of each negative episode, what might be the race angle here? I could count on our children finding themselves represented in the curriculum racially, in every course or class, at every grade level, in every subject area, and right up through graduate school. White people were also always visible to them. They didn't have to have any other validators of their experience. They were thoroughly in the knowledge system as authors and as subjects. I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. It's up to me whether I wish to do that. My colleagues of color don't have such a choice. If they wish to earn a living, arrange to be in the company of people of their race most of the time. If my children do badly in school, They're just seen as, goofing off, but not a discredit to the entire white race. I can buy bandages in so-called flesh color and have them more or less match my skin. My colleagues of color cannot. And I can swear or dress in second-hand clothes or not answer my letters without having white people attribute these choices to the bad morals of my race or the poverty of my race or the illiteracy of my race. I'm seen as an individual. That's a white privilege. I don't have to bear the burden of representing all white people. So I may be seen as a slob. It's just Peggy's a slob, not one more slobby white woman. I get let off from having to worry and be careful. And of course, it's super duper true with the police. I can get pulled over and know that it wasn't because of the color of my skin. It's because I was speeding. And then when they let me off, which rarely happens to my colleagues of color, I can see that the police have decided, well, I'm just an old lady with her hair in her bun and a quiet voice, and all my papers are in order, so I'm probably not really a danger on the road, but I really am a danger on the road. And I can see that my class privilege, my mannerisms, my habits, my choices of words, and my race have all worked to let me off from being arrested. If you're feeling about race as a white person, you're likely to feel blame, shame, guilt, perhaps anger. If you're thinking about it, you begin to put all the data together, starting with your own life experience, going back to childhood, and you begin to be able to frame some theory, some theoretical understanding about systems of power and how they have worked in your own life. Maybe they're gender systems, maybe they are race systems, maybe they have to do with your religion, maybe they have to do with what people projected onto the area of the United States that you come from. All of those are systemic. None of them are a matter for blame, shame, guilt, or anger. Is it a fair system? No. Did I know that when I was growing up within it? No. I thought my life was just normal. And I thought especially that my good life came from the fact that I had been a hard-working person of good faith. It was partly that. But it was partly being born white to a family that could afford a college education for me.
It's a personal decision each of us have to make. We're either gonna love our brother as ourselves, or we're not.